Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Hockey Talk. I am Mr. Harvath, once again sitting in with the now award-winning Matt Isley. Matt, congratulations on your PC3 Academy Award, Best Feature Segment for, of course, Notre Dame hockey. How you feeling today, Matt?
I'm feeling pretty great today, so I'm just, I'm thankful to everybody who has been here for a very long time. I'm just, very thankful to everybody here, especially Cooper, who's our producer here. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who's here, especially with Emerson, who's here today. And I just want to say thank you. So I just want to say thank you. So let's get right into it.
All right. Matt does not want to waste any time. He got his shout-outs out of the way, and we're going to get straight into the name of the show. It's Hockey Talk. So, Matt, last time we talked about the first-round NHL playoff matchups, and a couple of them are in the books right now. Let's go right down the list right now. It was the Vegas Golden Knights defeating the Minnesota Wild in their first-round series, 4-2.
Yeah, so I figured, the Golden Knights, they did pretty good. I figured, Jack Eichel did pretty good. He did at least score maybe a couple assists or maybe a couple of goals, depending on whether he was in the playoff or not, but whether he was eligible or not on the team's postseason roster for the Golden Knights for Vegas. So I figured Vegas did pretty good. Now the problem with Minnesota is, they just haven't really worked on, winning the series yet. That's the only problem. But, Minnesota did a pretty good job.
They looked good for a couple of games there, Matt, and then Las Vegas just kind of had the firepower to withstand that onslaught from the Wild. And like I said, 4-2, Matt. What was basically, let's kind of wrap up this series, what was the key element that led Vegas to their victory?
What the key to the element to their success with the victory for Vegas is just, just having that, firepower in them and just, slicing a couple of, fruits there for that is the whole entire key to success. It was something really special. One of the players, I believe it was Ivan Barbashev, who came from Russia, he did at least score a couple of assists right there. Another one I would have to say is, like I mentioned before, Jack Eichel. He's an American. He actually did a pretty good job there, and he did score a couple of assists and maybe a couple goals, depending on that series and how the effect it actually came out. But yeah, I figured.
All right, so Vegas advances 4-2 over the Minnesota Wild, and their second-round opponent, Matt, we found out who they are. It's going to be the Edmonton Oilers. So we got our first Canadian team advancing into the semifinals, and they were victorious over the Los Angeles Kings 4-2 in that series. Matt, what were some of the key elements that led Edmonton to their series win?
Like I said, it was the same process like, Vegas did, but with a couple of veggies they sliced it up as well. It was also their key success to leading, a couple of assists and points along with a couple of goals being scored, and having that key success to victory for Edmonton was the key victory. Like I said, with having the firepower in them as well, it was really, really interesting how it was. But I got to tell you, it was really interesting how it is. But I understand how it is.
How was it, Matt? How was it? What did Edmonton do to gain that victory? Who were some of the key players that led the Oilers to their win?
I understand how it was. It was interesting how the series, kind of intercepted. Some of the key players like Leon Draisaitl, the German. I would have to say Connor McDavid.
Oh yeah,
Connor McDavid is one of them. He's the captain for the Oilers. And then I would have to say Evan Bouchard for the Oilers, also for Edmonton, was also another key player to Edmonton, what led Edmonton to their series win over the LA Kings.
All right, Matt. So that kind of gives us our first second round series over in the Western Conference. Matt, I'm going to put you on the spot. We've got Las Vegas taking on Edmonton. Who do you see advancing to the Western Conference Finals?
I would have to say this is kind of a hard but a tricky one. In this case, you know what? I've got Vegas going all the way.
Whoa!
Because the reason why I put Vegas all the way is because about 2 years ago, the Golden Knights won their Stanley Cup in 2023. Like I said from our last episode, they did a pretty well done job when they beat the Florida Panthers back in 2023, and they did very well, and they just.
But you know what, Matt? I'm gonna cut you off right there. That was then. This is now. How are the Vegas Golden Knights gonna stop Connor McDavid?
That is a good question. They could possibly upgrade their their firepower and just to get more advantage with their gain to have a bit more possibility just to have that thing right there just to make a couple of line changes. They could possibly substitute their goalie, I guess, to have a better chance of defeating Edmonton. Is probably one of their keys. Staying out of the penalty box and being on the power play.
All right. So overall, Matt, you think Vegas is advancing, huh?
Yes. The reason why is because I gotta say Vegas is going all the way. Is because I just kind of really like their team and their some key players like Eichel, Ivan Barbashev, and Zach Whitecloud, and of course their starting goalie Ed Hill.
All right. So there we have it. Matt is predicting the Vegas Golden Knights to defeat the Edmonton Oilers in their quest for another Stanley Cup. We're going to hit you with a couple of more Western Conference series that are still in play, Matt. These are first-round series right now. The Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche are tied at 3 games apiece. It's pivotal, crucial, end-all Game 7. Who's moving on to the second round?
Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Reason why I say Colorado is because Colorado is one of the teams, and when I think about Colorado, you'll see they've got a couple of Colorado teams like the football team, like the Broncos. But today we have the Avalanche. So I'd say the Avalanche, because they are going to be moving on against the Dallas Stars in Game 7.
Okay. So, Matt, what is one key element? Okay, we're running short up the break here. What is one key element that the Avalanche are going to take into Game 7 where you see them advancing?
Potential staying out of the penalty box and while scoring on the power play and shorthanded as well.
All right, so power play goals are going to be the key to victory in that pivotal Game 7. Someone's going to move on, and someone's going to have to play in the second round. Who is the winner of Colorado and Dallas going to play? Well, it's between Winnipeg and St. Louis, and right now the Canadiens, the Jets, have a 3-2 series lead. Matt, how do you see that one going? Does Winnipeg close it out, or can St. Louis win 2 in a row and advance to the second round?
I would have to say this is a big one, but in this case, I'm going with the Blues. Because I would have to say the Blues, because it gives me a bit of more of an interesting series. I think the Blues might have a crucial one, but they can win 2 in a row and defeat the Jets for the series. I believe 4-2. Like I said, with the the Minnesota series, and the Kings series as well.
All right, so Matt's predicting St. Louis to come out of the hole, win 2 straight games, and they're going to advance to take on Colorado in the second round because he's got the Avs winning Game 7. All right, folks, we're running up against the break right now, so we'll be back in about 1 minute's time here on Hockey Talk. When we come back, I'm going to ask Matt all about the Eastern Conference side of the bracket, and we're going to tell the viewers how Matt was actually incorrect for once here on Hockey Talk. He predicted that the Devils would win that series over the Hurricanes, but unfortunately for Matt, the Hurricanes were victorious. We'll talk about that and more coming up right after this break on Hockey Talk. All right, welcome back to Hockey Talk. So, Matt, you got a big music video project coming up this weekend, so we're going to quickly hit these Eastern Conference matchups. Let's go over to the bottom half of the bracket. The Washington Capitals, to nobody's surprise, eliminate the Montreal Canadiens 4-1 and advance to the second round. Well, they'll be taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. Matt, real quickly, what went wrong with the Devils in that matchup?
You know, I would have to say, I mean, they just did not have enough firepower. So that's what that I would have to say, because they just didn't have enough firepower. But in one of their games, they did at least, they just kind of win at least one of their games in the first round. At least, I don't know what game number they beat Carolina, but I do believe they won at least.
They won one, yep.
They just at least, it's better than the shutout, at least, so good for the Devils, but still eliminated.
Yeah, that's true. There's no sweeps in the first round of the NHL playoffs, so a couple teams only picked up one victory. The Devils were one of them, but Carolina advances. Matt, let's put you on the spot real quick. Besides Alex Ovechkin, who are some of the key players to watch in the second round series between the Hurricanes and the Capitals?
For Carolina, I would have to say the newly transferred player who was traded to Carolina. I would have to say the player, I would have to say, who came from University of North Dakota, sophomore/junior Jackson Blake. And another one I would have to say is Jack Roslovic, who was traded from Columbus to New York Rangers and now signed with Carolina. And then finally, our last player of the day who was now traded from Chicago to Carolina is Taylor Hall.
All right, so Matt, give me a quick prediction. Hurricanes versus Capitals. Who's moving on to the conference finals?
Washington.
Okay, there we have it. He says Washington. Alex Ovechkin, I don't know, can he add some more playoff goals to his career total?
Maybe, but we'll find out.
All right. So finally, let's touch on these last two Eastern Conference matchups. Of course, Toronto knocks out their fellow Canadian team, the Ottawa Senators, 4-2. And then Florida, 4-1 over the Tampa Bay Lightning, which gives us a Toronto versus Florida second round matchup that many hockey fans are looking forward to. Matt, break that down for us real quick. Toronto and Florida second round Eastern Conference matchup.
So, for Toronto and Florida, I gotta say, Florida's no different, and of course there were a couple of trades from Boston. I gotta say, Brent Marchand was traded to Florida, like I said. they did have some sort of potential, and against that Lightning team when they beat against Tampa, their rival in the first round series, with 4-1 in the victory, that actually kind of worked out for the Panthers, which kind of worked out well. And I gotta say, it's pretty good.
All right, so putting you on the spot, Matt, who wins that series? Is it the Maple Leafs or is it going to be the Panthers?
Florida Panthers.
Florida Panthers all the way. So we'll keep you updated as the playoffs roll on. We heard Matt's predictions, so of course we'll check back in next week to see how we did. So Matt, we're running up against the clock, but real quick before we leave you here on Hockey Talk, I understand you're reading quite a fun book about hockey legend Mike Fisher. Can you talk a little bit about your reading material here?
Yes, I actually got this from a family friend. Somebody gave this book to me. I actually got it when I got confirmed at St. Paul Church. Somebody gave me this to me, and I figured this is a good book to read.
So what does the book talk about? Does it talk more about his career? Does it talk more about his faith, his family? Or does it touch on all of the subjects above to really give you a good concept of who Mike Fisher is and what his whole athletic and personal life is all about?
So this story is about a man who never gave up on a dream.
That's always a good thing. That's always a good thing. And what have you learned from reading Mike Fisher's story, Matt?
So one thing I learned about from that story is, you gotta keep on going, never give up, never give in, and never back down. And you gotta kind of have that faith in you and keep following your dreams as well.
That's always good advice. Always good advice on the rink or in the classroom or wherever you want to apply it in your game of life. So, Matt, I think we're running up against the clock. That's all the time we have here this week on Hockey Talk. Any final comments to leave us with?
So, I would have to say, I know we're running up against the clock, but I think this should be pretty good. But we'll see you guys next week on Hockey Talk as we get into the conference finals.
All right. Well, thank you so much to Emerson, to Cooper, who is producing today, and of course to Matt Isley. Matt, sign us off.
I'm Matt Isley for Hockey Talk, and we'll see you next time.